Hi, everybody. This is Chris,
This is Matt.
and this is Stellar 7. Uh, we're gonna talk about Stellar 7. This is our short game for the month. If
Very
you're just
short.
very short, if you're just joining us, this is what we do. We pick a game, two games each month. One's a long game, one's a short game. We play them for a little bit, and then we come back and we talk about them book club style. It's not a review. Don't take this to mean you should buy it or not buy it. Just listen to what two people had to say with their experience for this particular game from 1983 in Dynamix.
Yeah, this is a early wireframe Battlezone ripoff. But before we dive into the game, you'll probably notice that today we have the box art.
Yes, the
Because
original box art.
yeah, when we were setting up for this, we just could not get over this box art because it looks like someone held an art contest in their fourth grade class, and the winner got to have their picture on a Commodore 64 game box. And this is what you get.
This is so that time though. Like you weren't hiring top, you know,
I know,
artists or
and
something. You're hiring enthusiasts, but this is particularly this is the VHS tape you find that like you don't know what else to pick that Friday, so you're bringing this home to, just on a whim.
totally.
Um,
I mean, it's great. He's doing like the Darth Vader force squeeze for some
mm-hmm.
reason. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at, but I feel bad because someone drew this and is
Yeah.
probably very proud of it, and here we are shitting on it. So if you drew the Stellar Seven box, I'm sorry, but it does look like
Well, one of the
a
things I
color
like
pencil
is they
drawing.
bothered to like try and draw the ray tracing reflection in the bottom of his visor,
Right,
but
right.
then
It's
wanted to
on.
show his eyes. Like if you'd like black screened the whole thing,
Yeah, it's
I
on
think that'd look
theme.
better. It's on theme.
Yeah,
Um,
but man, it's a little rough. But it was the '80s. Production values were different,
yeah,
Uh, so that's what you get.
that is definitely what you get.
I mean, I love some like we've always loved
Oh
the
yeah.
super like dubious graphics in some of these games. Like they're really charming, and that box is charming too. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like it. But
Yeah.
it's
We're
funny. Like it's absurd and funny to me.
yeah. The reason we pulled it up and started talking about it is not out of hate. It's not out of something like that. Um, it's out of hobbits at my door. Yeah,
They
it's
want you.
they want me. It's out of, it makes me smile. It makes me happy, and I love seeing stuff like this. At the same time, wow.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Because it was a simpler time. Like there was no one thought they were
Simpler
going to make a
time.
billion
They were
dollars.
churning butter and playing Stellar 7.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Which this I can tell this is the Apple, right? Because of the pink and green pixels.
I'm starting this up for everybody. I got four versions recorded. We don't normally do that either. Um, but I recorded the Apple, the Commodore, the PC, and the Amiga. So we're going to take kind of a look at each of them.
Yeah. And
Um,
when you hear that, what you should know is that we did that largely because there's not a whole lot of gameplay to talk about with this thing.
yeah, this is a Battlezone clone from 1983 and then again in 1990. And I want to talk about the differences between the two releases because they're called the same thing from the same company and they're meant to sort of be the same game. But you
Yeah,
can definitely see the difference in both time and machines.
right.
So it's fun to kind of go through into it. But yeah,
Let's get the gameplay out of the way first because
yeah,
that won't take long. So you're in a presumably wireframe tank driving around a relatively flat plane.
you're in the Raven, the most destructive tank in the universe at the time.
Sure.
Sure.
Why not? Can only shoot two bullets at a time, but
Let's shoot two bullets at
whatever.
a time. Yeah, the
Yeah,
bullets have to leave before. It's not a reloading thing. Like you can go bang bang, and then you just gotta wait. Um,
right. Look at you go.
look at
Yeah,
me.
it's like it's not bad. Like the
Hmm.
radar is pretty cool. Like there's a little bit of strategy involved, because you have to, all those boxes show up on your radar, so you have to be aware of what's a tank and what's a bird.
Right.
Uh, what are those ships? Or those birds? What are they?
They're ships.
They're
So
ships.
one of the things that I do like about this game over Battlezone is Battlezone is like almost strictly tanks. There's some other versions that added
Hmm.
things in. This one has like tanks and hovercrafts and sleds and gliders that come in at you, and then there's laser batteries and homing mines on some of the higher levels, refueling bays you want to try and get to and use up at the right time to recharge. And you have
Yeah,
an inviso cloak that lets you like you hit the space bar and you go into a cloaked mode. You can still get hit, and if you shoot, they'll have an idea where you are and they will try and home in on that, but you can actually use that to lure them to turn in a position and then come around to flank. So
yeah,
when we say Battlezone clone, it is. It's an absolutely honest description, but there's a smidge more to it than that I think makes it more fun. Like I'll play this again.
yeah,
I don't know that I'm ever playing Battlezone again.
yeah. Like I like this game, and I like especially Battlezone because I really liked Tron when I was a kid, and they
Mm-hmm.
they feel like the games that were in Tron to
Yeah.
me, and I really like that. And I also wanted to say that I love the sound effects in this game; they were
Mm-hmm.
really good, and it was pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
I think of it more as a time waster than a game. Like I didn't really, I did to be honest, I didn't play it a whole lot, but I never felt like sucked in where I'm like, oh, I got to get to the next level in Stellar 7 or I'm going to
Yeah.
like pull my hair out. It was always oh,
I'll get a little better. I'll play a little more. Yeah.
play a little Stellar 7. Sit down, you know. There's some carrots like you said.
Yeah.
Seeing new stuff is always
Mm-hmm.
engaging, but
Yeah. And I think even if like with Battlezone, you sort of have this endless run at it.
mhm,
With Stellar 7, there's 7 levels and you win. And even if you play on some of the earlier versions, there's maybe 5 where they cap you. There's an end. There's an end to the game. You're never going to sit down and put hours into this. It wasn't intended as that, and it's done really well in sort of that design thing for
yeah,
exactly what it is. This is the thing I really wanted to point out about it. I love this mission briefing thing.
this is super cool. I don't recall this.
Yeah, you can pull up a mission briefing before you start the game, and it will walk you through all of the enemies, how many shots they take, how fast they move, and
Pretty
just
good
let
writing. I
good
like that.
writing.
This little devil is tenacious.
Yeah,
It's a tenacious little devil.
tenacious little devil. Yeah, and I remember like playing through this game and seeing the heavy tanks the first time in the game and being like, "Oh, these
Right?
things are
Like
hard."
this is
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool little game. And
Hmm.
and like it is kind of the shortest of the short games. Um
Yeah. That we've done so far. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, overall it's fun. I spent a lot of time driving in circles trying to get the tanks to show up on my radar, but uh I remember having that I always end up doing that in these games. Like in Uh, I did that in Red Baron when I was a kid. Like you just end up banking and flying in these big circles trying to get the guy in front of you.
Right.
So like from a strategy standpoint, it's something you have to manage. Like it, it's
Hmm.
not it's not just like a rail shooter or something. It's
Right.
takes some ability and some reckoning.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up now uh the Commodore version. That
Yeah,
was
this
the
is
Apple too.
I played the Commodore version and the DOS version. Uh, the Commodore version felt a little janky to me. I don't know if it was just my machine or whatever, but it didn't feel as smooth as your Apple version looked. Like guys would phase in and out a little bit. Like suddenly they'd
Oh.
be closer and farther away.
Let's take a look at how my gameplay goes after we
Yeah.
see this sort of mission briefing here, because I don't remember having that happen. So maybe you got a janky version of it.
I think Vice leaks memory. That's my theory because I'm prone to leaving it open for long periods of time. As we're like playing Dethlord, I'll just like leave it open
Yeah,
and then
that's
I'll
entirely
restart it.
possible.
Yeah. But yeah, this looks
Entirely
very
possible.
similar. Just with the Commodore kind of muddy color palette that we
Hmm.
all love.
Yeah. Um, and it's, it came out the same year as the Apple. And it kind of goes
Yeah.
back to they had a very similar processor and the assembly language was very similar. So if you put one out on one and the memory worked on the other, why
Right.
not?
Just dump it over, yeah.
You're not out anything.
Battlezone Battlezone in the arcade was notable because it had the two stick controls and it had the periscope that you looked through.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 80s that was always the coolest shit when you would like have the special periscope or the gun
Yeah.
like in Operation Wolf. That was a little later, but
Well,
uh
well, let's talk about it a little later. Like Battlezone was 1980. Like you say,
yeah.
in the 80s, it was the 80s. It started it right there at the beginning. So
Yeah.
I'm routinely blown away by that.
Yeah, this came out 3 years later and like
Added
doesn't
some
look
things,
that
but
much better, but
yeah.
yeah, it added some depth I think that was
Hmm.
missing. Just you know,
Yeah.
the arcade is just a different animal.
Hmm.
That was Atari. This is kind of a spiritual remake because it has nothing to do with Battlezone
No.
technically,
No.
other than being
Yeah.
pretty much exactly the same game.
And
It has
now
nothing to do with it.
this is Dynamix, distributed by Penguin Software. But I also found a bunch of people or a bunch of references when I was looking up stuff for this, saying that it was from the Software Entertainment Company.
That is the worst name for a company ever. It's
Right.
just so boring.
That's
Video
why
game company. It's like
there's
from a
part of me that
movie.
doesn't believe it. There's part of me that's like, was that really the name? But so
I'll bet
here's
they probably had a bunch of meetings and like couldn't like couldn't think of it, and then they got done there like, well, I'll just call it Software Entertainment
I'm
Company.
sure it was
Who
one
cares?
guy. I'm sure it was Damon Sly who
Yeah,
made these games and made Red Baron,
yeah,
which I'm looking
right.
forward to getting to. So
Red Baron was one of the first games that I truly loved. So I'm excited about it too. I hope it isn't ruined by nostalgia.
nostalgia or bad updates.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
fingers crossed on that.
yeah. I'm
Um,
terrified about that one because like legit love that game.
we may try it out before we go to do a review.
Yeah, I don't know if I
We
can
don't
handle
normally
having
do
my
that,
my heart broken for a whole month.
right? So
But
this
anyway, I'm
was
sorry.
the first
Software
Dynamics
Entertainment.
game. Yeah, Software Entertainment Company. Not sure it's a real company. Maybe it's just something like Damon Sly put up, started going. Dynamics bought it real quick, and then some magazines still had it listed as the other thing. It was like $29.99 to sell its first year out. I
Hmm,
started seeing like within a year or two, it was down to $10.
that
Um,
sounds right.
yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like what I would have paid for this back then. I'm
Yeah,
okay with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
back then you would have pirated it. Let's be honest.
Well, that was so what I read in on one site, and it's semi rumor. I don't know how much to take this because I couldn't find anywhere else legit that said it. Was that only 8,000 copies of this sold for the Apple,
Really?
but that it was still one of the more popular games just due to piracy.
Yeah.
And I want to not believe that, but it also sounds so believable that probably is true.
Yeah. It's what you did. Piracy is such a weird story. And like
Hmm.
I don't know if I grew up or piracy has changed, but like when I was in middle school, everyone did it and like there was this battle between copy protection and gamers, and now it just seems like why bother?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many easy ways to get it. If you missed it on the store shelf, you haven't missed it forever. You'll
Right.
get it on Steam. You'll get it somewhere else. It'll probably be on sale for dirt cheap after so long. there's so many legitimate reasons to just buy a legitimate copy that, and I know some kids can't afford that still, so there's still piracy. There's still sometimes you just don't want to support a company or you don't want something like that. That doesn't justify it, but it
Yeah.
is one of the arguments. There's
Yeah.
cases where the copy protection legitimately won't work on your system, even though you have a legitimate copy.
Right.
Um, Ubisoft used to be really bad at that.
Yeah.
So,
Among other things.
among other things. Um, so, I mean, I still see reasons for it, and because of piracy, we're able to have, versions of this still floating around.
Right.
So I'm happy for that. But I also, yeah, it's different now. It's not like it was.
Yeah.
Um, Piracy was almost part of the social contract of owning a computer back then. That's how you like interacted with people. Like, oh, I'll trade you this for this. And
Right. Totally. Yeah. And it was fun. And you'd get
yeah.
like those photocopied manual pages to beat the
Mm-hmm.
copy protection and shit. I had a copy of IndyCar Racing and it always asked like questions that were in the manual about like the history of IndyCar racing. And there
Yeah.
were like a few that I memorized and or like could guess, but I just like sit there reloading that fucking game trying to get one of the questions I knew. Yeah, that was a good time.
This game, oddly, that reminds me. This was one of my first experiences like doing piracy. I've bought it since then. This is one of my first experiences doing piracy on the Commodore back in 1990, I want to say, with someone I didn't know, like before this moment. I was at a friend's
Oh,
house. He knew the guy, and what we did is we basically just said, "Okay, I'm going to be in town on Friday. I'll give you my 2 cases of discs. You give me your 2 cases of discs." And we just pirated them and met on Sunday and traded, gave our stuff back.
wow.
And
Were
this
you like,
was
are you a cop? Because you have to tell me if you are.
you gotta tell me if you're a cop. No, I mean the kid was 12, so we were
Could still
fairly
be a cop.
certain he
You never
wasn't a.
know.
Could be a
They're
12-year-old
wily.
cop. They are. So yeah, and this was one of the games in there, along with Hover Bover and Phantom Karate Devils.
Oh
So
God.
this weekend and B-52 Stealth Bomber and a bunch of other stuff, or not B-52 Stealth Bomber. There's the Stealth Bomber from Microprose. There's a bunch of um, Bozo's Night Out. I'm just trying to think of them. There was a lot of games I saw for the first time that weekend, so it sticks in my mind. But this was one of them. I think this was the one we played the most this weekend because this was new and
Yeah.
fun, and we
Yeah.
got our
It's
stuff
pretty
back.
cool.
Yeah.
I love that the garage door looks like tractor feed printer paper
When you
from
said that, I
someone's
laughed.
office.
I never thought of that until you said it, and I was like, "Yep."
It like I swear I printed reports on that paper at a previous job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you
Uh,
said this is the first Dynamix game ever.
I think so.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Like that's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Do you know you want to tell everyone the last this is the saddest story in gaming. What's the last Dynamix game ever?
Okay, so two answers to that. So you got Dynamics, and this one's come out, and this is here, and then Dynamics as its own company went through Front Page Sports football. Uh, I love the Front Page Sports football series, and I don't like
Yeah,
football.
right. They were fun.
They were fun. They came out with the first one of those, and then were bought up by Sierra. And so the last game that was under their banner before they just sort of ceased to exist didn't even come out, and it was Mini Golf Maniacs.
Yeah. That
That
is
is, I don't even
so
know what it
sad
is, but it sounds so sad.
on so many levels, right? Because like not only was their last game Mini Golf Maniacs, but it didn't even get released.
Didn't even
Like,
get out.
oh, how do you fall so far? Like going out on Front Page Sports as a company, sure,
Yeah, good way
you
to
could
go
do that.
out.
You could
Yeah.
do that. It was a hit, like everyone liked it, but then Sierra bought them and just like ground them into the dust, ground them into Mini Golf Maniac dust. Oh,
And what's funny is I like Sierra as well. Like,
yeah, yeah, sure.
I think
I,
it's just sort of a cautionary tale towards any indie selling out or giving over to a big name publisher. I mean, your
yeah,
company ends the day you hand it over.
yep,
You'll get money, you'll get a little bit of coast time, but you have basically terminated that patient, and it is now on borrowed time until it collapses. And
Yep.
I've never seen an exception to that rule. Have you? Can you think of one?
Uh,
Bungie, sort of?
well, what about
Maybe?
Origin? No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
That's Matt Herrick at.
all right, Ultima people, let's do it. Email me.
Bring it on. Yeah, no, I can't think of. I mean, a lot of it was with EA, but this is an example of even outside of EA.
Yeah.
Blizzard is still kind of holding their own with Activision, but
Yeah, Blizzard's hanging in there. We'll see what happens.
yeah, I still feel like they might have done more without Activision over them, but who knows?
Well, if you look at the Diablo franchise, I think that this is kind of their last chance to save Diablo, because isn't Diablo 4 coming out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there, and then maybe we'll be having this conversation again. Instead of
Yeah,
saying Origin, I'll say Blizzard.
Blizzard. Yeah.
You know what else is getting? You know what's getting remade?
I do know it's getting
Let
remade. Do you want to tell them?
Yeah, it's Auto Duel. Speaking of ruined nostalgia, someone is remaking
Auto
Auto
do.
Duel, which we joke about constantly because we both were so frustrated with it and
Oh,
alienated so many people with our dislike of it.
yes.
Uh, yeah. So stay tuned. I don't know. Are you gonna play it?
Of course.
Yeah,
I have to. Like,
I'm
it's
gonna play it too.
required. Okay. Now you'll see me switching box art here. Um,
Yeah. This is the 10-year later 1991. It's not quite 10 years.
1990? Yeah.
1990. So 7 years later. I did that
91
math
for
in my
Amiga.
head.
Yeah. Did you do it in
Yeah.
your head?
Oh, this is Amiga?
No, this is the DOS. The Amiga came out
Okay.
in 91.
I see. Gotcha. And this is a totally different experience and game than you just showed.
Right.
This I found way more engaging than the Commodore version.
And I did
Most
not.
Yeah, I mean, it does so much more and it's so different. Like, I don't even think you can say that this is Stellar 7.
Not the same Stellar 7. I mean, so do you want to go into some of the differences or I mean, well, first off, there's an intro little mini movie here, which the
Right.
Amiga has with voice, by the way.
Ooh,
The
man.
Amiga audio and voice is just much better than this. The graphics I find on par, a little different. I like some of the DOS graphics better than Amiga, but that's me.
I love these pixel art. Like, look at that. That is fantastic. It looks like Zardoz kind of.
Yeah.
It's super cool. But there's Damon Sly still
Mm-hmm.
involved. So
Yep.
it's Stellar 7.
Yep.
But this is this reminds me more of like Mech Warrior kind
Mm-hmm.
of. It's still like behind the scenes. It's still that wireframe stuff, but they filled in
Yeah.
the wireframes
It's
and
proper polygons now.
yeah, there's a mouse-driven menu. Like it's very different experience.
What I love is the briefing is the same briefing.
Yeah.
I love that they didn't change that.
Mm-hmm.
They really tried to make it an update to Stellar 7. I think they failed in two big points, and we'll talk about that here in a second, because first off, they've got those guys sort of flapping in a weird way.
Right.
The obstacles I'm going to talk about in a bit too. I don't know what's going on with the warp link. But they added this enemy, the Guardian.
I liked the Guardian. When you see him, it's like, holy shit, it's a giant robot. It's like all my anime fantasies are coming true. You didn't think so? You didn't like
I
it?
didn't like the robot. It
Why
felt
not?
because it felt out of place with all the other tanks and everything. Just all of a
Oh,
sudden, this robot shows up.
you're such a curmudgeon.
Sometimes, yeah.
Enjoy the big robot. Why can't you just be like, oh shit, a big robot? Oh
I love big robots.
yeah, just dive in. Ah, you're so principled.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Other times, not as much. But
Yeah.
so we'll finally get to see some gameplay here of this. And
Yeah.
one of the things you'll notice right away is in the lower left, First off, I'm having trouble with the joystick. But in the lower left, there's a lot more power ups to your tank.
Yeah, you can change up your tank. The cockpit's definitely richer.
Mm-hmm.
Like the radar is part of the cockpit, which I always liked.
Yeah, I think that's a nice touch. Uh, I think the aesthetics obviously are much. I can't argue with the aesthetics on it at all.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be like, oh, this looks worse, or oh, I think the other version graphically is the better version. That's not
yeah,
the
because
part I like about it. Yeah.
you're not up your own ass. Like this objectively is looks better. Like it just does.
Right.
It might
My,
not be your favorite
no,
style, but it looks better.
it looks better. I think there's one thing though that oddly makes it look worse. It's not looks worse on the broad stroke. Just one thing I think is a mistake, and that's the obstacles. The obstacles were these big boxes previously, and by shrinking them down and trying to give them like this definition, I feel like the
Mhm.
world looks emptier.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. I liked the big boxes. Like
Yeah.
no reason for them to be there. I mean, there's no reason for these to be there, but these at
No.
least look like
Yeah.
yeah,
Rocks or something. Right.
right, right. Um, yeah, I can get on board with that.
I don't know if they needed to be bigger or, more defined or like a hump or I don't know. It's my only graphical gripe.
Yeah, I also think I preferred the bullets in the Commodore version too. Like I don't really like these round
Yeah.
bullets. And they don't have that sweet exploding animation the same way
Mm-mm.
they did in the original, which had some charm to it.
Yeah.
Like they felt more substantial because
Right.
they were wireframe too,
Mm-hmm.
and these are just clearly just sprites.
I'll also say, as strange as this is about to sound, because they filled it in and it's this primary VGA era color, this feels more cartoony where the Commodore felt more real.
Yeah, the Commodore felt like you were maybe in the future when you're wearing a VR helmet in your tank.
Yeah.
That's what you'll see, and this feels like a video game.
Mm-hmm. I was going
I
to say
can,
Saturday morning cartoon,
yeah, totally.
where the other one felt, I don't know, just more something.
Yeah, it had a certain je ne sais quoi, I guess.
Yes.
Um,
But it's nice that the radar is actually tracking different types of things so you know what's happening around you without
yeah,
instead of
right,
just all white dots.
right. In the Commodore, you have to stop and just like watch it for a second.
Which
That
one's
was,
moving? Oh, I've been shot.
yep, yeah, not a good strategy
Mm,
uh, in battle. Like I'll just stop and figure out what's what.
yeah. I will say one of the things that might have made me enjoy the DOS version more is I have my clock cycles way too high on it.
Yeah, you really have to tinker with them. I had that experience too when I booted this up. I was like, "Oh, this is way too fast," and that makes it so hard to understand the intent of the developer. Yeah, here's the big robot that you hate.
Yeah, now I'm dead.
Oh, no wonder you
One
hate
hit.
him. He fucked
Just
up your
toked me.
Christmas. He
Yeah,
just
right?
destroyed you. Yeah. Um. But yeah. Anyway, with the clock cycles, it's hard to understand the intent of the developer. Like, how fast is this game supposed to be exactly?
Right.
Because it has such a direct effect, the CPU
Oops.
cycles on the game behavior.
I forgot to do that.
What sticker is on there? New. I can't even read that on the Stellar 7 box.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was on CD-ROM. Wow. We're on a run of 7 games. We did Seventh Guest. Now we're doing Stellar 7.
I was thinking that after I did it. I'm like, was that intentional? Was that what happened there?
It's subconscious.
Maybe.
Are you getting up the Amiga version?
I'm trying here. I think I
I'm
just
excited. I'm
borked
excited.
my.
Oh no. Technical difficulties.
OBS gets funky sometimes. Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't always want to show you every window.
mm-mm.
But yeah, Damon Sly, the main developer on this, did a lot of games that I really have fond memories for. He
Yeah.
did Red Baron, A10 Tank Killer. I played a lot of sim games when I was a kid. He did the first Mech Warrior, which
Mm-hmm.
totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. He did do the first Mech Warrior.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I noticed there was a lot of sim games, especially like the late '80s into the early '90s, and I think it was a really great way to differentiate themselves from a console. Like you could play your little other things on a console quick and easy. This was you couldn't do this on your Super NES, you know?
Right. Yeah. And they were fun too. Like it was always I always wanted to drive a race car or fly a plane, and I was like, oh, I can do it on my personal computer
Mm-hmm.
with Intel 486 technology.
Give me a second here.
Yeah,
There
I
we go.
saw here we go. So that this looks a little different than the DOS version. It looks a little smoother to me, but
Yeah,
maybe it's just because it's smaller.
the graphics is a little smoother. They're actually speaking these lines in this. The music's a little better. Um, but once you get in the game, it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah. You know what this game looks like on the DOS and Amiga? It looks like a game I used to play called Ultrabots. Do you remember that game?
I do remember Ultrabots.
The main reason I remember Ultrabots is that we worked together at a software etc.
Mm-hmm.
And Ultrabots had the weirdest box of any game I've ever encountered. It was like two sections, and there was like a big section and a pipe and
Yeah.
another section. And we used to have to like organize the shelves every night. And it was like, oh shit, it's like Ultrabots. Now I got to deal with it. I got to deal with this.
I hated non-standard boxes as someone who worked in the store. I
Oh yeah.
just
Yep.
couldn't stand
Drove me nuts. Now there are no game boxes, and that's a sad story.
it. Mm-hmm. And now we made ourselves sad.
Yep. I'd take that goofy Ultrabots box back any day.
Oh right. Oh, I know. I
But
If it ever loads here,
yeah.
see some Amiga.
Yeah, I'm constantly blown away by how good the Amiga was.
It was the computer for rich kids. It was the one we wanted.
Yep.
Here's the briefing. You can see how much slower the briefing's spinning
Oh yeah.
on mine. I mean, maybe I needed to set it to a faster setting, but
Was the Guardian in the briefing in the first one?
you mean yeah,
Or
in
in the
the
DOS
DOS?
one?
Yeah.
Was it? I just missed it. Yeah. I liked that thing. Yeah, this looks just like the DOS
Just like
version.
it. You can see I've got the special gunshot on so you can fire more than one at a time, but I am just firing one because I don't really know what I'm doing here. So,
Yeah, it's really hard to lead these guys, and
mm-hmm.
like it's hard to even judge where you're if you're shooting too far or too
Yeah.
if they're passing you or whatever.
I think if the
Uh,
bullet had a shadow.
that would help so much. If the guy in the bullet had a shadow,
Mm-hmm.
it would be really nice. But you get you can kind of tell. It's not like
Right.
impossible, but yeah, it's probably what makes this challenging.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, just to me, like, so each of these little power ups you get, you have to kill so many of a certain type of enemy to get them charged back.
Hmm.
And that's fine. It's a good mechanic. I don't have any gripes with it as a mechanic. Um, but it adds just enough hassle for me that it's no longer a sit down and play game.
Right. This is definitely more of a commitment, like mentally and time wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's so much more to it. But
Yeah.
I think it's well done, and it is worth. Like, if I were going to recommend people play this, we probably disagree here, but I would say play the DOS or Amiga
Mm-hmm.
version. Unless you're just looking to burn 20 minutes and you've got Vice or your Commodore emulator open or whatever,
Yeah.
or your Apple emulator, then toss it in and give it a shot.
Yeah. We're gonna disagree. Because I don't know. I'm stumbling over myself because it feels wrong to say, but this is the line. Like, there's not enough meat to the story, to the gameplay, for me to want to invest time. But
Mhm.
just that addition of other power-ups and having to manage them is like, okay, for the amount of joy I'm getting out of my time wasting, this is more work than I want to do.
Hmm.
This is right where the line is for me. It won't be
Yeah.
for everyone. Your mileage may vary, etc., etc., etc. But yeah.
Yeah, it's walking a line
Hmm.
definitely between game and time waster.
Yeah. Um, Tom Clancy. This is one of his favorite games. Was one of his favorite games.
Yeah, that surprised me.
You know what his
I
other
don't know
favorite
why.
game was?
Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Leather Goddess of Phobos. His when asked what
Oh,
his favorite game was, he's like Leather Goddess of Phobos.
the
Also Stellar
original?
7. Yeah.
Yeah. I had Leather Goddesses of Phobos too,
Hmm.
and that was provocative. Let me tell you, we got to play it. It was
we
like, yeah,
we will
lock the
sometime.
door, put the kids to bed. We'll play Leather Goddesses of Phobos too. That was a good time.
I think the first one came with scratch and stiff stickers.
Oh, that's so tasteless.
It's really, yeah, the whole thing was tasteless.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
I think that's all I have to say
that's
about anything. We
right.
talked about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy with everything we covered on it. There's, you know, we don't need to dig into each of the enemies because they are things you shoot with bullets a certain number of times and explode. I mean, there's not really a huge strategy to this. Keep moving, don't get hit.
Yeah, they are different, which is impressive. Like they
Hmm.
feel different, even in the Commodore.
Yeah,
Fighting a flying dude is a way different experience than fighting a hovercraft.
and fighting a heavy tank is something you want to use that Inviso cloak to get around to the side because they will hit you
Yeah,
hard. We didn't talk about the fact that there's shields and fuel, and you got to kind of manage that.
I
And
think you
that's
just said everything there is about it.
yeah,
But you do, yes, yeah, that's very true.
like in the Commodore and stuff versions, if you're burning your Inviso cloak, you're wasting fuel faster,
Yeah,
and you get a little bit back each warp. So you don't want to overspend, but you don't want to underspend. If you're going for a
right.
high score, you got to balance all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little bit of management, but not too much. You can sit down, bop in, have fun. It's not a
yeah,
long game.
yeah.
Followed up by Arctic Fox and Stellar 9 and Nova 11. Nova 9? Stellar 11?
Something. I didn't play any of those. Did you?
No.
I'd be open to it.
Hmm. Nova 9, The Return of Gurdraxon. Because, yeah, there's a
Great
story
game.
behind all this. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Like the bad guys have like a faction or a name or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
Okay, so we'll shut off the video capture.
All right.
Short game for next month does not exist. It's December. We're taking a break.
Yep.
We're gonna just
Taking a break from all this fun.
taking a break from all the fun, all our worries. Sure would help a
Sure would
lot.
help a lot. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to everyone. Our long game is still Fantasy General. We have started. We like it ish, sort of.
Yeah.
We'll see. See if
Yeah.
that continues to hold up. Um,
It's very brown
Very
tinted
brown.
box though. It's a lot of browns there.
A lot of brown tinted game,
Yeah.
which we'll also talk about in time. This Thursday, are we still on?
As far as I know, yeah.
More Deathlord. We're
More
leaving the
Dethlord.
island.
Yeah.
If you
We did
have not voted,
vote.
vote, vote for where we go with the boat. I'll put a link in the comments below. It's also on Reddit. It's also on our
Yeah.
Patreon.
We did a
Just
long play of this, like with a few breaks, but that
yeah,
was a good time. That was a good day, and we made a lot of progress. And now we're
yeah,
ready to strike out.
yeah.
And there's some options. And I know some of you have chosen the swamp option. I'm not going to name any names.
Because you
Uh,
can't.
yeah, because it's secret ballots and all.
I was gonna say, except for the one who volunteered it, Mark.
Yeah. So vote anything but swamp. 2019.
or vote Swamp.
I'm so irritated at the swamps. And then And then I step on them while you're
Yeah.
gone, and people told on me. They told you that I did it. I felt so bad.
Oh.
Why would you do that in
Why
the
would you
chat?
tell? You hurt poor Matt's feelings.
I know. I
It's
was like,
okay. It's so
Chris
that
is
they can
finally
hear my
gonna
annoying
respect
laugh.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the moment. I did the whole thing without stepping on Swamp. Oh, Matt. Finally. I can
Yep.
hand the keys over. I can leave and be done.
Yep. Nope.
Nope. Stepped in Swamp. All over. All right. Anything else? Any other goof offs we need to do before we go?
No, I have nothing to report.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.